don't know. I'm talking nonsense.
What's Jay talking about? Don't listen to Jay. He's crazy, first of all. All right. We are officially live on both platforms, Instagram and YouTube. So thanks for following anyone that is following. If you have questions, feel free to post on the Instagram feed. I think there's also a feed on YouTube Live. So this is our first time going live. Jay, cheers. Water Tower Podcast is nothing amazing. It's nothing huge.
What?
It's nothing...
What?
But it is fucking growing. And we can see that in analytics. We can see that in our following. And I'm happy for that, Jay.
Yeah, me too, man. But want to just get to the nitty gritty. Let's talk about this shit. There's fucking a lot of emotions going on. I'm a little pissed off. Everyone's a little pissed off. COVID hit. Now we got this shit going on. George Floyd killed. Now there's riots in the streets. We got a political divide like normal.
Well, I think that's the biggest part of all this is that political divide, Jay, because this is what we're seeing, man. And this is why we decided to go live, ladies and gentlemen, is because there's a lot of civil unrest out there, man. I mean, there's some fucking people that are really pissed off, and they should be. You know, someone got murdered, and there should be people pissed off in the streets. I know this happens all the time. I know this happens to every color that's out there, but this is not what that's about. This particular moment, this particular movement is about a particular group of people who just get served injustices time and time and time again. So protests like this are just happening all over the place, and it turned into a couple protests, and just overnight, literally, just turned into almost a civil war, Jay.
Yeah, it's fucking crazy, you know, looking on Facebook, and man, I'm losing some respect for some people. You know, you can't judge people off Facebook and stuff, but sometimes you can, and people saying, well, a white unarmed guy was shot too, and what about okay, that's sad too, but you didn't post shit about that when it happened in 2017 or whatever instances happened from the few people I've checked, and you haven't posted anything about George Floyd and the cops' violence, but yet you're posting all about the riot violence, which you think a normal person would be like, well, where the fuck are these riots happening from? Where does this source originate from? Well, obviously it's George Floyd and others, but mainly George Floyd that video popped everything off. But I get a little irritated because it's like, how are you gonna like post that shit, but you haven't posted one thing about the police? Well, we gotta protect the police. Yeah, there's some good officers, and some of these mofos are coming out and saying this shit's murder and speaking out, but some other ones are just like, you know, some people are turning this into a white guy gets killed, no one said, like, dude, that's not even the fucking subject of the matter right now. Just because you have struggles and you go through problems doesn't mean because you identify with someone else's problems that your problems don't exist. You don't have to pick and choose. Everything could be on the table, but damn, this shit's happening right now. There's no need to pull up old shit and post that because you didn't post it in the first place.
Dude, I totally agree with that, Jay. And you know, I haven't seen a lot of that personally, but it's out there, and I totally agree that if something happened 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and you felt powerful about it, you should have said something about it then. This is not the time to bring up stuff that you know has happened, because yes, we all know that things happen every single day. I mean, you know, I just saw a video the other day where a Chicano guy got shot in his driveway. I mean, it happens. It happens every day. We see more of it now because we have a video and everyone has cell phones and the like. But yeah, you're absolutely right, man. There's no need to bring up stuff that is irrelevant at this time, because this is a mourning time for some, and it also is kind of an uprising, I think, for the movement altogether. But it's just scary, man. It's scary how people are creating these twists and propaganda and using it to their advantage.
Yeah, you know, it's fucking nuts, man. It's just like Vice City, California, I see a Jeep full of kids with Trump flags. I believe it's Trump flags, maybe just American flags. I don't know, I get those confused nowadays. But running over a girl or hitting a girl, and they're blocking the road, trying to block the Jeep. But it's like, man, there's this weird divide going where now it's like, and then Trump tweeting the craziness he's tweeting, it's insane. And whether you're for Trump or against Trump or whatever, it's like there is a big wedge being brought on people. But if you have a group of black people, like tons of people telling you this shit's going on, this shit's been going on, we don't get a fair shake. Not saying that if you're a white person, your shake's not fair, but I'm saying forget about that. Like, listen to these people. They're getting the short end of the stick here. And what, are they all liars? Yeah, there's a couple of black conservatives here and there, and being conservative and liberal shouldn't matter, because you can be conservative or liberal and understand what the fuck's going on. And yeah, I don't think you should riot, but fuck, man, like the black community should be outraged, and they are outraged, and people just denying that and trying to point the finger a different way. I could have watched the George Floyd video and said, well, there's a kid that starved to death in Africa, but what does that do? That's not what we're doing here.
You're absolutely right, and I think I just want to piggyback on what you said about what's important right now and what's going on. And I mean, it just sounds like I just got a tweet not too long ago about city of Los Angeles getting an 8 p.m. curfew for all residents, and that's actually across the board. I mean, you see states across the United States developing a curfew, military marching down, President Trump calling for the National Guard to come in and handle things. It's a scary situation, man, and it just which is why we're having this emergency kind of broadcast in the first place, is because where is this going to go, man? Is martial law around the corner? Are we already in martial law? I mean, what martial law means is we have curfews, we're being told to stay indoors, and that's exactly what's going on right now. And you tie that in with just a lot of just gruesome stuff going on. I was actually hoping to capture some critical moments in Sacramento, not even sure what was going on, but it turns out yesterday was a huge protest in Sacramento, which for the most part was a peaceful protest during the day, and then things escalated and it got to basically like any other protest in the United States. And some kid got shot in the face with a rubber bullet, and from the video, it looked like the side of his face was falling off. I mean, just devastating stuff that's coming out of this, and I think we're just seeing the beginning, Jay, which is the even scarier part.
Yeah, Atlanta, Detroit, Oakland, San Francisco, Visalia, it's all over, and it's with social media and stuff like that, it's connected. And just going on TikTok, people just from the source out on the street recording what they're seeing, and just watch a video of just a bunch of cops walking down a suburban neighborhood, all jacked out in the military style, and these group of probably protesters, I don't really know, white kids it look like, were on the patio, and they're just like, get the fuck back inside, and there's like no one really out, get the fuck back inside, and they're like, what? And then he's like, they're not getting in. They all turned and just shot them up.
Unloaded on
with the unlethal rounds, I'm assuming.
They're paintballs.
Yeah, okay, and then one of the girls got hit, but it was just like out of the blue, like what the hell? So there's a green light. Someone's put on a green light because it's getting aggressive. Even if there's cameras rolling, they don't care. It's getting aggressive.
I think you're right. I think from the top down,
on both sides.
Law enforcement's probably on both sides. I think there's been a green light. Something has been lifted, and you know what? I'm not, and I hate speaking on someone else, and I'm not saying that police are crooked and the law enforcement is crooked or anything like that, but it does seem that the law enforcement across the nation have been given a green light to enforce something. I mean, whatever it is, whatever it ain't, it just seems like they're just not giving a fuck right now. Like they're just going out and they're loaded and ready to go.
Yeah, and we have typically over the weekend we're working on an episode to produce out Tuesday, and sometimes it could be delayed a day or two, sometimes a little more. It just depends what we got going on that weekend, but we're usually busy trying to get this shit together. But we had to jump on here live and speak on this because we covered a bit on the episode released Tuesday, but we wanted to go more in depth because so much has happened in the last 24 to 48 hours.
Fuck yeah, there has, and that's exactly right. We record on Fridays, and we were preparing the video for Tuesday, and we talked about George Floyd and how this is just a devastating blow to just on so many levels. Not only did we lose a brother, but we've also lost credibility in certain people and really just blew up in the last 48 hours, which is why now we're having this conversation, because by Tuesday, by the time that episode goes out, it may just not be relevant, but it's going to be old news. And so we wanted to get up here and especially talk about the protest. And I think we should go there. I want to make sure that we're answering questions. So
no new questions.
But let's talk about the protest, Jay. And you know what? I posted some things today, and I got some feedback. And the kind of feedback I get, I love, because it's never hatred. It's just, hey, well, what about this? What about that? What about that? And I think everyone's point is valid. Whatever your point is, whether you sit on the right, whether you sit on the left, wherever you're at on the spectrum, I think if you have a point and you're willing to talk about it, that is validity. And it's just talking with that point with an open mind and being open to hearing someone else's point and maybe being swayed in a particular way, whatever side you lean on. And I think that's huge. So I posted some stuff on Facebook today, and I got some feedback. And it's really so much going on about protesters looting and vandalizing.
Yes.
So, yes, that is happening. Do I agree completely with what's going on? No, I don't. No, I don't think that small businesses and things like that should be destroyed. But when you have people that have been hurting for a long, long time, and you have people that are outraged and people that don't know what they're doing, people that this is their first time protesting, but they know they have to do something, it creates an atmosphere where you're just fight or flight, right? You're in the moment, you got to do what you got to do. When something happens, you follow suit. And what we're seeing a lot of, Jay, and I don't know how our viewers feel about this, but there's instigators out there, man. These motherfuckers.
You know, something you hear a lot, but now with all these live feeds, there's a lot of shady shit out there from the guy. We actually talked in the episode that we released Tuesday about the guy at AutoZone, the white dude with the umbrella and the mask. And,
right.
And not sure, I can't fact check everything so much, but apparently his ex-wife identified the clothing. It's possibly an officer in Minnesota, but the bricks, where was that? Detroit, Atlanta, I don't know, but there's a stack of bricks randomly on a corner that they're saying is a construction site, and this kid called it out. He's like, I was here on jury duty last week, there ain't no construction going on. Oh look, a bunch of bricks just happened to appear.
What the fuck is that? What is that? And when we talk about, and when we post on Facebook about, these movements are for the most part peaceful protest, and there's just a group of people that are coming in and instigating these, acts of violence and acts of looting and stuff like this. That is real, man. There was a fucking stack of bricks that were placed there. There was no construction within any kind of range. There's no reason why this stack of bricks are there, but they're there. And then you have these, who knows who they are, but in my opinion, they're paid protesters. Because I don't know if you remember back in 2014, actually, when Black Lives Matter was actually getting pretty big back then too, it came out. And I don't know who sponsored it. I want to say Bezos was involved for some reason. But they paid protesters to go out and cause ruckus.
Yeah, I'll admit, typically when I hear that, I kind of roll my eyes, even though I know it happens like internationally, especially. We talked about the Hong Kong protests and some Chinese members, but Boston Tea Party, whatever. United States taking over California from Mexico, they did a similar thing, and it's all over history. But I always kind of rolled my eyes, like, I don't think it would go like at the police force, but like after watching all these videos, and you mentioned it to me, and I kind of was like, let me look into that. And if you look hard enough, there's some gross ass shit. You could just tell there's some like, even kids that are probably not paid that are trying to destroy stuff. I just saw a video of like those white grungy kids, that kind of, I don't know what group they're part of. They typically look like Antifa members, if I must say that. I don't know if they are, but they look like those dirty, like homeless kids. Just kidding. But like they're like raggedy. I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. And they're destroying businesses, and these black kids like, hey, you gotta knock this off. You guys are white. You guys are gonna get a shot. Like, what? This ain't a game. And you can see how confused they are. There's just so many weird layers going on. So many weird layers. There is,
and that's why another reason why we came up here was because we know people that follow us sit on both sides of the spectrum,
and so do we, kind of.
And so do we, right? I mean, me and Jay disagree on a lot of stuff, and that's all right. And then it's all about disagreeing, but talking about it to the where everybody's comfortable with the situation. And I think when we talk about stuff like this is not on mainstream media. You're not hearing about the pile of bricks on CNN or Fox News. You're not hearing about the AutoZone guy breaking windows and then that really leading into others getting involved in looting and this kind of thing. So you're not hearing about that stuff. That's why not only us, I mean, we're new to this and I think we're doing a damn good job of this, but there's a lot of other people out there that are on the ground with footage, that are producing footage that's real and factual, and you can't deny what's going on the ground.
Check out Facebook Lives, Instagram Lives, TikTok. I know social media also has an angle and will produce stuff, but you could get it kind of from the source of the phone and the person that's at these protests. All these cities, they're just posting left and right to TikTok. And I'm sure Facebook Live, Instagram Live, it's all over. And it's a way to skip a middleman, although I get it. Some will argue it's still on a social media platform, but go as close to the source as you could get. From what I can tell, that's it, because you're seeing all kinds of crazy shit you're not seeing.
Oh yeah, you totally are. And again, that's kind of how, and actually this kind of started the first Black Lives Matter movement is I would follow a movement, I would see some footage on the ground, I would see who put that up, I would follow them. Then I would just follow them on Twitter, because now I'm following someone that's on the ground, that's producing real live content. Because you can take a clip of anything, And by the way, Instagram followers, if you can even hear us back there, this actually good audio is going through YouTube. And so it would be better if you followed on YouTube because the audio is better. But if you don't mind following from a distant camera, yeah, that Instagram phone is way the heck over there. So if you can't hear us and you'd like to hear us a little better, YouTube is probably the way to go.
And Instagram, let us. We got 2 cameras. We got one for YouTube, one for Instagram. But let us know how the sound is on Instagram because it should be good on YouTube. But I'm not sure. It might be echoey. Can you guys leave a comment? Are you guys able to hear us on Instagram? But let us know in the comments. But if you guys have questions or chime in, you disagree with us, whatever, it's an open table here. And we're just talking. We're just normal people talking about what's going on both sides of the spectrum. But I gotta admit, man, like in my personal opinion, I'm not God or anything. Not yet, Nick. I'm working on it. But I'm getting my cult together. But like in my opinion, if you're gonna talk about the violence of the riots, you better damn well be talking about George Floyd and other cases similar because. That's where this popped off at, and it's easy to sit there and go, "Oh, the riots are bad," and I agree. Fuck, these riots are doing nothing great, but it's getting it's getting attention and keeping George Floyd's name alive. But at the same time, it's just some people want to steal, some people want to loot, some people are just out there to take out anger and just join in on a testosterone-filled party. But like, man, how can you talk against all these riots and all these idiots and all these thugs yet you're not even concentrating on the black issues, the generational wealth gap? Netflix, I post on my Facebook, Netflix has a great little 15-minute documentary, just a little summary of the generational wealth gap, and the documentary 13th on Netflix. Watch that too. Like, you don't have to agree with it, just watch it. I mean, if you disagree, cool, but just kind of look into some of this stuff because a group of people are telling you some shit's going down and we're saying you're all liars, and you can't do that.
Well, two things I'll take out of that, Jay, and one is, absolutely, if you're talking about protesters and you don't agree with what's going on, just know that there's a reason why this is happening. And that reason isn't because just a bunch of people want to get out and destroy shit. No, that is not the reason. The reason is because there's been generations upon generations that have just compiled, not only, and it's hard to use the word hatred, but just this relationship with a country that doesn't want to accept them. And this is just a culmination of all that stuff. So yes, if you're talking about protesters and you don't mention the death of George Floyd, you're skipping a step there. You're skipping a step, and you need to understand why people are out there, why people are mad. And the second point I would make on that is read some stuff, because that's where you get the good information. You can't just watch TV, and you can't just watch Fox or CNN or MSNBC or any of these, even NPR. You can't watch any of these and get a picture of what's really going on. You have to read. People like Tallahassee Coates, great author, great person. He puts out good information out there. Other people, just read articles, read books.
Yeah, and in historical books, mainly, you got to be careful. Some history books are a little persuaded one way, but especially if it's like high school level, but it's insane. By the way, Instagram, thank you, J-Lo and Juan, for giving us that. We're loud and clear. That's awesome. Maybe it is working through the roadcaster. I don't know. But thanks, guys. But feel free to leave comments if you guys disagree. But this issue, man, it just it's so complex, but it isn't.
Well, it is, I think. And I think I would say I heard, a lot of going on about Martin Luther King Jr. and his protests and his peaceful movements and his really, really heartfelt desire to create a non-violent movement to create change, which is great. And I'm not saying that that's a bad idea. And I think, non-violent movements are great to have. And it's scary when you do have violent movements. But what happened to MLK, Jay?
Yeah, he was assassinated, basically.
By who?
Well, that's never been confirmed. I think it's like FBI. Has it? FBI probably. It
has been confirmed that the United States government conspired with the CIA and FBI to assassinate Martin Luther King Jr.
Yeah, and there was a FBI agent that was on Joe Rogan recently, ex-FBI agent. I forget his name because but it's he was saying everyone talks about the JFK. It was like the real weird one is the Martin Luther King Jr. one. That's the one that everyone should be paying attention to.
Right, and it doesn't matter where you go, man. Look at Nipsey Hussle. He was creating a movement for the black community. He was developing people to be business owners and local entrepreneurs. And I think he was even delving into a documentary exposing some sort of propaganda from what I read. And then he dies, right? Yeah. And this happens all the time, and it's unfortunate as it is, but these folks are powerful, and these folks are creating an even bigger divide amongst our people. And I think the biggest thing we need to understand is, although maybe some of you may sit on the right, some on the left, and we all disagree on certain things, we all got to know that we're all sitting in the same boat.
Yep.
We're all in the same boat. We're all poor for the most part. You know, I'm not rich. You're not rich. I don't believe any of our followers are rich. But yet we still disagree on stuff like this. And just know that there's a group of greedy, rich billionaire men sitting at a table right now, probably this very second, twiddling their fingers, thinking to themselves, things are going exactly as planned.
Well, and you hear about Jeff Bezos going to be the richest man eventually.
First trillionaire.
But he's not. He's not. There's tons of people richer than that have been around a long time that aren't in the spotlight. And you know, come on, man.
Right.
You know it's true. And
yeah.
from the from the royal family that got into the oil business with Dutch oil, and even the oil business on the West Coast, on the United States, the western part. But it's like there are people that have tons of money. Jeff Bezos is probably laughed at between them. And sometimes I wonder. I strongly believe the right and left love this shit. They want to keep it going. That's why it's hard for me to go right, left. It does seem like, I'll be honest, conservatives are letting me down right now, letting me down a little bit, just like the left before this was letting me down. It's not an issue of left or right. It's an issue of, man, your fellow brother, your neighbor, your cop has more in common with you than he does with the dude in D.C. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. And you know what, Jay? I gotta be honest, man. There's not a lot that scares me, but I'm scared right now.
Yeah, what do you guys think? If you guys can hear us, do you think we're overreacting when we say there might be a civil war in the U.S.? Nick, you seem to be probably, maybe. I'm kind of no. I don't know, but it seems like it's going that direction.
I'm leaning in that direction as well, and I say that only because you see genocide in other countries, and you see divides that have created, like in Rwanda and other places like that, where a divide has been created that ultimately led to a civil war, civil unrest, or whatever you want to call it. And when you think about what's going on right now, and you see tweets and you see Facebook posts on the right and on the left, on the conservative, on the liberal side, they're very strong opinions on both sides.
Yes.
And so strong that it's like mending them doesn't seem like it's possible right now.
It seems whenever it gets a little too quiet, that wedge comes in between people and they divide us. And it's gross, it's ugly, and I'm sick that it's 2020 and I feel like it might as well be 1980. It might as well be 1993. It doesn't matter. It's time. Like, this can't keep happening. And I don't know, what does it take? Are we going to wait till the United States is scorched to the ground to finally get a point across? I don't know. I hope that doesn't happen, because I don't want to be a part of that. I don't want to see families divided in a civil war, because believe me, they are going to be divided. But dude, as a white dude, I grew up like in a family that, would sometimes, there wasn't a black community where we grew up. There's a large Hispanic community, but it was, like, oh, they're bitching again. Oh, this. Oh, I don't see color. And I believe that because I grew up in that. And just that little pocket of community. And as I get older, it's like, I get it. But you got to get out and talk to people. You got to get in travel. Move, get around and experience a little something different. If your friends all agree with you, if your coworkers all agree with you, that's impossible. That's just not how humans work. You should be having interesting conversations. You guys should be having some disagreements. Hopefully they're civil. But, it's like, you got to broaden horizons. You can't just keep with the same pocket of people.
Well, I think you said it best, Jay, when you said if you're not arguing with your group of friends, you need to get new friends.
Yeah, get new friends.
Because that is exactly what happens. I mean, you guys, me and Jay sit here and we have a podcast and you see what we talk about on a podcast. But you don't see when we're talking and we disagree on things.
And sometimes we disagree on the podcast.
And sometimes we disagree on the podcast, right? And so it's not about agreeing with everything. Yeah. It's getting out of that cocoon and really venturing out to see other things. And I think that's just so important, man. Just at least being open to hearing someone else's opinion, and not only listening to their opinion, but hearing their opinion. And I think there's a difference between that, because it's like, yes, I hear what you're saying, but I need you to feel what I'm saying. I need you to understand. I need you to look through what the veil is and look at what's behind the veil.
I mean, we all have different fingerprints. We all look different. It's impossible that someone's going to agree with everything you say. So when you're in a group like that, which somehow they form, it's a little weird to me that everyone's agreeing on abortion, everyone's agreeing on religion, everyone's agreeing on war. Come on. That's been made up for you to believe.
Right.
That's been produced down from some news source or something, and it's trickling into you. And how many times on the left and right I've talked to people that drop certain sentences, I'm like, oh, that's a weird take on things, like COVID especially. And then I go at night stoned and watch Fox News or CNN, and they'll say it on one of those. I'm like, there's where it came from.
Right.
There's where it came from.
Spewing. And when millions of people watch these platforms, what do you think they believe? What do you think they're talking about when they have their conversations? And so it's just a regurgitation of that information, which is just sad. But I think we're here for the most part to let everyone know, and I know we don't have a huge following, but whatever following is out there listening, we definitely want you to know that this is not a time for us to get divided. This is not a time for us to choose which is right, which is wrong. Yes, people are out there rioting. Yes, buildings are burning. Yes, cars are being flipped over. But if you look back in time, some of the biggest changes come from being recognized as a people. We wouldn't be talking right now. We wouldn't be having this emergency podcast session if that wasn't happening. And I think that is the silver lining of what's coming out of this is you need to create a platform where the world is watching and the world is listening. Because now look what's happening. Now we have officers coming out and calling their forces out. Now we have officers like in Texas, I showed a video that went into the streets and took off their helmets and put down their batons and say, what do you guys want from us? And the people said, march with us. And the law enforcement, what they do, Jay?
They say, we don't want to protest, we want to parade, let's do it. You know?
Let's march.
Yeah.
And they march with them. And that's what we want to see. That's what's coming out of this rioting. That's what's coming out of these protests. Shit like that. And that's what we want to see.
And look, if you're on the San Jose freeway and there's a bunch of protesters blocking it and you got to get to work to pay your rent, I get it. I get getting pissed. But when someone comes up and bashes your window, you're turning that person against you automatically. You're giving a certain news source the right to argue. Mm-hmm. You're giving the enemy in their eyes ammunition. So you got to be very smart. I get it. Sometimes you say, fuck it, we got to do this, but everyone's an individual at some point, and you bashing someone's window in, you best believe whoever owns that car is going to be pissed.
Fuck yeah. Fuck yeah. And I'm glad you brought that up, Jay, because if I was sitting on the highway with my family in the car and somebody came to bash my window in, I will probably die on that street because I'm going to get out of there and beat the fuck out of whoever just bashed my window, and then I'm going to get jumped by a bunch of hooligans.
Yeah, what do you guys think about this situation? What do you think? Do you think I don't believe this, but do you think the riots are justified? Do you think it's overblown, going crazy? Do you think the undercover cops are keeping it going? Do you think the news media is keeping it going? Do you think it's just humans being humans and this is what we do? Let us know what you guys think. We'd love to get you guys involved in this.
Or do you think all that because because it is a little piece of all that stuff, man, and it's a human nature to kind of just fight. That's kind of what we've done since the dawn of time, and it's a little bit of everything. People are getting information there's too much information coming out. There's just information coming out everywhere. We were just talking about how you even keep up with this.
We just scrolled through 10, 15 videos within 5 seconds of different parts of the United States protests of live feeds. It's insane.
And you don't know how to feel. You don't know how to feel because
gross.
we can sit here and talk about how police brutality is a motherfucker and it's bad and it's no good, and then we can sit here and also talk about some of these rioters are breaking people's windows and they're just a bunch of dickheads, right?
Yeah.
And it's a combination of both, and it's okay to see both sides and feel for both sides.
You don't have to pick and choose. Both could be wrong. George Floyd's death could be wrong and the riots could be wrong. But just because it's weird that some people tend to just jump on one and be like, that's how I feel.
Right. And I think this is the biggest part in my opinion, and this I think is what's going to take us the furthest, is the fact that the majority of protesters don't want the riots. They don't want the looting. They don't want any of that. But there's a group of people instigating and creating violence and breaking windows and really opening the door for others to come in and loot. And once you do that, it's like a wildfire. It's hard to stop that. And the powers that be, whoever laid that pile of bricks there for people to throw through windows, whoever's paying these paid protesters, or whatever law enforcement agencies are sending their agents to go undercover and break windows, this is creating a nightmare for the movement. And Antifa's already labeled as a terrorist movement. President Trump just came out today and said that Antifa's labeled as a terrorist movement. So now one of the only groups that's willing to put up a real fight against corrupt system like what's going on is now labeled as a terrorist group. In 2014, the Black Lives Matter was labeled as a terrorist group because very similar situations were happening. There was law enforcement and people going undercover and creating violence, and we talked about this actually on the podcast that will be released on Tuesday. So this infiltration of a movement to destroy the movement is working, and it's unfortunate because people just buy into the propaganda, and it's going to destroy this movement, and this movement will be dead in no time, and by then we'll have military all over the streets.
Yeah, and you know, I disagree with the Black Lives Matter being a terrorist group. I'm on the fence with Antifa. We have different feelings on Antifa. I think they're kind of a crazy, violent group, like others. But Black Lives Matter, that's an important group. And we had a conversation. You were like, I don't know if Black Lives Matter is still around. I was like, I think they are, just with lower rumblings, and they're back. They're loud, and they got a spotlight now, and that's why I'm glad they're still around.
Yeah, I am too. And you know what? If you take our advice, and not that we're spewing advice, but if you
we're no experts here. We're just normal dudes.
We're just normal dudes talking about this. But if you look really deep and you pay attention to what's going on, and you listen to the cries for help by these individuals who are leading these protests, by some of these local Black community members who are leading speeches and leading rallies, all this stuff is powerful, man. When you hear these young women talking about just years and years and generational racism and what they've dealt with and how it is to be Black in America. It's so fucking deep, man, and you can't delegitimize that. It's 100% true, and you can't deny it.
And it's very easy to be like, oh, they're bitching again. Why don't you just take some time out of your day and look into how a Black person would buy a home in the 60s and the 1900s after slavery? Like I keep trying to point people to Netflix documentary about generational wealth. It's about 15 minutes. There's tons of awesome documentaries about race on Netflix, but this one's easy and summarized. Take 15 minutes of your day to watch it. It talks about after the Civil War. You know, some of the union leaders got a group of Black men together, and this was news to me. Got a group of Black leaders together and said, "What can we do for the Black community to make it easier to get into society?" And they said, "Land." So they put tons of land aside and put a cap on 40 acres that they're going to give out, and started putting a pin to a map on the East Coast. And Abraham Lincoln signed it, and it was good to go. And then Abraham Lincoln was assassinated, and the man who went into my mom called. She's pissed.
She's watching. She's like, "You motherfucker."
Yeah, but it's
the 40 acres, Jay.
The 40 acres, and they took it away. And
rappers rap about that all the time. If you ever heard a rapper mention 40 acres or a singer mention 40 acres, that's exactly what they're talking about. And actually, during the Cesar Chavez movement, it was the same exact thing.
Yeah.
It's very similar in that particular circumstance where they give them, acreage, and it's, butt fuck Egypt and worth nothing. But even take it back to Native American treaties, right? I mean, it's always being crushed over, man, and always being bulldozed over, and it's a sad situation. But again, this is no time to pick sides. This is only a time to be a human and understand that human need for help. And there's a group of people right now that are dying and asking for that help and humanity. And some of us are giving it, some of us are not, and we need to do better.
Yeah, we all need to do better, and I don't have the right answer. I don't think any of us do. We still need to spread positivity, but man, I've been pissed off the last 2 days. I've been pacing back and forth. I've been, the news is bringing it out of me. Social media is bringing it out of me, but and just like the rest of you, I can see everyone's pissed off. We just had this COVID situation. Apparently that's gone now, and there's groups of people everywhere, but it's insane. It's insane what's going on, and the fact that there's even... And the fact that there's even a going against Black people right now, fucking losers, good job. What are you talking about? That's so dumb and easy to say. It's a watered down answer.
It is easy to say it. I think that's what it is. And it's fear, Jay, and you know that, and I know that. There's people that are fearful, and you can talk about white fear and what that's all about, but it's really just a group of people that don't know what's going to happen if they let down their guard. And all I can say is let down that guard and see what happens. Because the other side is not as bad as what the media portrays them to be. So if you let down your guard, you let people into your life, you will notice things aren't as bad as they think they are. If you're listening to the news and you're going crazy and you think, fuck, the world's on fire, what's going on? You walk outside of your front door and you look at your neighbors watering their grass and the kids playing around the corner, and you really think to yourself, the world ain't on a fucking fire. My neighbor's doing just fine. Look at that, neighbors are doing fine. Everything is not as crazy as the media will say it is. And so when you think the world's on fire, go out and talk to your neighbors, because that is what you need to focus on, is the people around you. Talk to your family. The world is not on fire. Don't believe.
Well, and the sad thing is, the people on both sides, they're great people. They have, most of the time, we got way more in common than we have in different. And, if you really want to look up, you'll see the problem, But, people that have these opinions are great people. Just because you're on one side or the other doesn't mean you're a bad person, my mom raised me great. And I'm saying that because I saw she jumped on Instagram. Just kidding. But, my mom raised me great. My mom always, hey, everyone's your brother no matter what color. And, and not everyone in that area thought that way. And it's getting old and tired. And it just, something needs to change. Something needs to happen.
And I think you make a good point. I don't think this is the point you made, but this is what I'm extracting from that, Jay, is I'm not black and you're not black. But yet we can come together and feel for our fellow human family. And we can, have this conversation and talk to people and just have this feeling, this human feeling for our brothers and sisters. Because we all bleed the same. We all look the same underneath. And it's doesn't matter how you grew up, but it's how you're reacting to what's going on now, which unfortunately is part of how you grew up, because we are a product of our environment. But doesn't mean we can't change and we can't be open to other people's opinions.
Yeah, and like I was saying earlier, if you have a group of friends that all agree with you on every single issue, then you need to start. That's just impossible. That everyone agrees with everything. So, but some people put things on the side just to get along, and that's great. But it's okay to talk about these things. We disagree all the time. We leave here friends. We go have a drink. We go eat some food. It doesn't matter. So just have these conversations, and you could get a little heated. It's fine. But once the conversation's off the table, then go be friends again.
Light up a doobie.
Light up a doobie. Hey, everyone light up a doobie or get your grilled cheese. I got cut out of this episode.
It did.
But, man, enjoy each other. Enjoy these different cultures. These people taking these sides already.
Well, here's I want to talk about what's next, Jay. And in my opinion, this is what's next. We are divided. They put this wedge in between our cultures and divide our cultures. We all lose at the end.
Yeah.
When martial law is initiated and we all have curfews and we're all getting shot at with rubber bullets and we all have to just go to work and abide by certain rules, and then guess what? All this communism talk, all this fascist talk that everyone's been talking about, we're trying to avoid and what's creating our division, is now just going to be thrown upon every single one of us. So even though we're divided right now, once this shit really goes down, we're all fucked.
Yeah.
We're all fucked. This is not going to benefit anyone.
Yep.
And so if we can just get together and create, and this is what needs to happen. And we talked about this on the podcast coming out on Tuesday a little bit too, but I want to reiterate. A former professor of mine who is, he used to be part of the Black Panther movement, talks about how to mobilize. And the way to mobilize is to create a plan. And so I think that is what's going on right now. I think a lot of these protesters and people that are on the streets are people that are just enraged and really want to do something. But I think there's probably a group of people that are leading these kind of organizations that have to meet and create a plan and a list of things that they want to see happen. And I think in the last Black Lives Matter movement, they did something very similar, and that's where body cams came out of, actually. The whole body cam thing of police officers being forced to use body cams came out of the last Black Lives Matter movement. True. And so, you lay out these plans that you want to see, and I would hope that in these plans is arrest these motherfuckers who are murdering people. If they get charged with murder, send them away for life. Do something. Prove to the American people or the people of the United States of America that you are willing to do what is right and punish the people that need to be punished.
From what you've seen, that target that was looted for about 24 to 48 hours, how many people died?
Right.
Zero, from what I could tell. I don't know. 0 people. I'm not saying it's right, but I'm saying you're talking about that. Some of you people are talking about that on your social media, but you're not talking about George Floyd, who had 3 dudes on his back and 1 protecting them.
Great fucking point,
that you pay tax money to protect you and serve you.
Right.
And you're talking about that Target,
a $1 billion company.
I'm not saying Target's right. It seems like your priorities are messed up, though.
I think you're right, Jay. And it's a $1 billion company. And you know what? Someone even posed to me How would you like it if, someone took your business and this and this and that? And which is why actually I will first say that I'm glad that we're on a platform like this, Jay, because I'm constantly getting people texting me, DMing me, hey, how do you feel about this? How do you feel about that?
Thank you, everybody. That's awesome.
Yeah, thank you for the feedback. And although we don't know everything, we're just two random guys, I think that we learn enough, we are educated enough to at least talk about certain topics with some kind of validity.
And we're open to feedback. If you guys disagree with us, enlighten us.
Right.
We don't want to be right. We don't want to just be right. We want the truth.
Well, and what is truth, right? And then I think the truth can go a bunch of different ways, but I think having conversations about what's good and what's bad.
Yeah.
And but going back to the business thing, Target is a $1 billion corporation, first of all, and other local businesses, small businesses, did get their windows smashed, and that is so unfortunate. And if I had a brick and mortar business and somebody broke into my business, and even though I don't, what if somebody broke my van and all my equipment's in my van? Probably $20,000 worth of equipment in my van. If somebody looted that and broke into that, I will be devastated. I will be sad. But if that is in the name of big change in this country, then it was worth it, in my opinion. And I have $1 million insurance coverage, so I just call my insurance agent and file a claim, and I'll have all my shit in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
Okay, so all your businesses out there, they're required to have insurance policies that will cover them in crisis like this. So yes, it's unfortunate. Yes, it's bad, but nobody died, like you said, and it's not the end of the world to have material things gone. That's just. And who gives a fuck about that anyways? I mean, I've already expressed actually on the podcast that's coming out on Tuesday too. I am not for capitalism, and Jay is. And so we had this debate on the last podcast, which will be released on Tuesday. And fuck material things, man. I mean, yeah, you're right. Nobody died in Target. And that's not the point. The point is we want you to be aware of what's going on. We want you to see the other side of things that not being portrayed on mainstream media.
Yeah, and we're kind of repeating ourselves, so I know we got some other people on, but it's like, how do you post about one thing and not the other? How do you post about the aftermath but not the source? How do you say, oh, these people are being violent, and blah blah blah, but then you don't mention anything about the murder of George Floyd and others?
The root cause.
It's insane. So I just wish you could be on both. You could agree with both. You could say riots are bad. And the cops killing that dude are bad too, and they all should be tried, because they all should be tried, in my opinion.
Oh, absolutely. I think the bystanders, the cops that were watching, all of them should be tried. And if not with murder, manslaughter. Because how do you let your partner do that? Yeah. How do you let your brother do that? If there is a blue code and that guy is your brother, how do you let your brother commit murder like that? How as a person, as a human being, and then as a partner, as a part of a team, how do you let your teammate go down that rabbit hole without intervening? Because it's right. So, absolutely. And the reason why this continues to happen, Jay, is because nothing fucking happens to these individuals. Never. I mean, yes, every once in a while you'll see someone get prosecuted and they'll go to jail. But for the most part, nothing fucking happens.
Well, and the one cop's being tried for murder, I think third-degree murder.
Right.
But I don't know about the other cops yet. But at the same time, it's like, it's a little too late. Like, it's beyond that. Like, even if they're all tried, there's still, a man has died again. A black woman has died again.
Right.
What was it? Her last name Cooper, Jessica Cooper, something. Was a female cop. I guess. I don't know too much on this, but apparently cops broke in and shot her, or not broke in, but came in.
Wrong apartment.
Oh, that's right. It was the wrong apartment. So it's just. And it happens to white people too, but that's not. It's not like, well, it happens to white people too. Good, we all lose. That's why we need to unite and come and bridge together.
Right, and we can't use that argument because exactly what you said, Jay. We all lose.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter who dies. We're all losing.
We all have shit. Some people have bigger piles of shit, and unfortunately, a lot of times it's black people and people of minorities.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And you can't deny that.
Yeah.
Right. How can you deny that? How can you sit there and say that the scale is even?
Yeah.
You can't. There's no way. And if you are, you're lying to yourself, unfortunately.
Yeah. And as a white guy saying that to other white guys, sometimes like, oh, you sold out, you lefty. I'm like, fuck the left, fuck the right. This is just being human. This is just fucking speaking from the heart. It's like, sorry, Nick, it gets me insane that you're always thrown into the left or the right.
And you know, I can't even see that either. I'm not white, so I don't even know what you go through because I can't even imagine where you sit.
Well, it's like you're turning on your fellow group, you know, or something, but it's not that. It's like, you know, especially come from Lindsay, a predominantly Hispanic town. Right. We all love to eat tacos. We all love that culture. Mm-hmm. Yeah, are you going to stand with that culture when it really matters? You should be better off being raised in the valley with minorities because you grew up as a white person, as a minority in a town. Then you go out into a world that is white, progressively white, majority white, and you should be able to identify with some of those things. You know, not completely. I don't know what it's like to be Mexican or black, but you would hope growing up in a town like that, you would have a little bit better of understanding and be able to bridge to that thought.
Right. I mean, especially when you see these communities like the folks in Lindsay, who is agricultural, farm worker, poverty-stricken town. And see and feel for it, especially people that have worked on top and have watched children grow up in a school district and have watched children grow and become who they are as adults. I mean, you should be able to relate to that somehow, some way, and remove any kind of bias or prejudice that you have. You would hope, but I mean, I can't speak for that at all. But I'm glad I am sitting here with the white guy talking about stuff that's not particularly about white individuals. Well, I guess it is, but I think that's an amazing perspective.
Well, and as a white guy, I got the wrong haircut at this time. Holy crap, how do I get my ass kicked with the shaved head? It's a COVID cut, guys. There's nothing's open.
So Jay told me the story about going down to the protest, and why didn't you want to go, Jay?
Me and my girl, we were down to the protest, we were like, fuck, let's just march peacefully. We're not going to get involved in any of the bullshit rioting, but I want to stand in solidarity with my fellow man. And I don't want to go because when I lived in San Francisco, I was always called a cop, a narc, and I'm like, what? And I guess I got that look. You know, I walked into a wedding with my girlfriend once and was like, oh, you're a cop? Are you a cop? Are you a wrestler? Are you a cop? I didn't know what I'm talking about.
You do kind of look like a cop.
So I'm like, yeah, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to be like, that's an undercover cop. And they're going to jump me.
Well, that's bad.
That's bad, and that's honestly how I feel. Because in San Francisco, when Trump became president, there were some aggressive situations in certain neighborhoods. So I was like, I gotta get the fuck out of here.
Which brings your point, and which creates more validity and just more reasoning for your point.
I'm scared to be an ally.
And it's an interesting take, you know, because again, we're talking about what we talked about on Tuesday's podcast. But Jay asked me, what do I do? What do I do as a white man who's trying to understand this particular subject and topic, and how do I go about showing my solidarity with this group of people? I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah.
I don't. I don't know the answer to that, and that's how I responded. But there are people who are doing things like exposing people, like saying to their fellow family and friends, this is not right. Doing exactly what we're doing right now is what we can be doing right now. And we can all be doing this. It doesn't take much to put on Facebook or Instagram. I don't agree with what's going on. I don't agree with the rioting, but I also don't agree with the deaths. I sit neutral, and I just want to see things get right, and I don't want to hate my neighbor.
And you hear hateful stuff. You know, you hear like in some of the protests, you know, there was like, you know, a Mexican guy saying, you know, you take one of ours, we take two of you, white people. Fuck white people. Hey, you just lost a lot of allies because there's a lot of white people on the fence. Like, where do I go? And, you know, there's some white people on the other side of the fence like, this is fucked up. Then you hear that, and then a news agency runs with that.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so, yeah, shooting up white people isn't the agreement, but shooting
Don't
up
do
black
that.
people either. Like, so, you know, make sure your household isn't hating anyone based off their color. Make sure people are more in the middle than extreme left and extreme right, but you need to understand the history of the black man in this country. Not just after slavery. After slavery is what you should really invest in. Slavery is easy. Okay, there were slaves when they got freed. It's way more complex.
I'm so glad you said that, Jay, because understand it before you ridicule it. And what is it? Don't knock it until you try it, you know? Understand their situation. Go back, read, just even Google, Wikipedia, whatever you got to do to understand what's been going on over the last 100 years, man. And you know, there's people alive today that have grandparents who were slaves. That's how recent slavery was.
That's three people.
It's not like it was 10,000 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like it was ancient Egyptians or Mayans. This was in the 60s, man. This was in the 50s, 40s, 50s, 60s.
90s in South Africa, apartheid.
Right. So this is something that you really need to know your history on, because it's a matter of my laptop
Not the charger one?
closing down. Yeah, it is. but it does that sometimes.
Well, we're still on Instagram, but yeah, YouTube just shut off.
Fucking laptop.
But we'll just continue on Instagram.
But I mean, here's the thing, Jay. I think you know, and I know that we are humans. We are humans, and that's all that should be said, in my opinion. Is we are humans and we need to stick together. But unfortunately, it's never that easy.
It's not easy. It's complex. But man, I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. You know, this podcast on Tuesday we talked about a black police force. You know, like there's a Hasidic Jewish police force and stuff like that. There's Muslim communities with their own little religious police. I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but I'm saying does there need to be a black police force? I don't know. I don't know, but you know, after this situation, you know, the Green Book. Let's talk about the Green Book. Just many slithers of racism that's happened. The Green Book was. Are you familiar with the Green Book?
No.
They made a movie about it too, but basically the Green Book was a book that you would give someone driving in the 60s or 70s that if they're black and they're driving across country or show where there's black safe areas. That's how crazy it is. You know.
Yeah, and even modern day, there's apps, Google Map apps, that will keep you away from bad neighborhoods, which is just kind of crazy, you know. It'll direct you to not have to drive in minority neighborhoods.
Yeah, a lot of let's get back on. But a lot of you know, Bill Burr, the comedian Bill Burr. A lot of people say, "Oh, his comedy's kind of racist in San Francisco, so he's racist." And I was like, he's married to a black girl. That doesn't mean you can't be racist, I guess. But like, he's like, it's crazy when like her little brother was driving from the East Coast out to LA to stay with us, and like how worried they all were about him. It made me go, holy fuck. We don't think about that. Like when we're driving across country, like cool, it's gonna be great, but they're like, don't go to this area, don't go to this state, don't this city, you might want to avoid this area, you know. And white people might do that at certain dangerous areas, but like he was like, it opened up his eyes, like holy shit, like this is still a thing.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I've heard of that too, where you know you don't really understand it until you're in it. You know, I've known a woman who from Germany, you know, and you know didn't really. I mean, she knew about racism, of course. But then she started dating a black guy, and I had a conversation with her probably, you know, a year into her relationship with this guy, and she would tell me things like, I cannot believe what we have to go through sometimes, going into a restaurant, you know, getting an Uber or just whatever. It's just crazy. We have to deal with so much hatred sometimes, and it's just, I never knew about it until I started dating this guy and it happened to me.
You dated a guy?
No, yeah.
But like, no, I remember instance, you know, I've been to certain states in the Midwest where, holy shit, like I thought I experienced a little bit of racism growing up in the Valley. Holy shit, this is like racism on steroids. Like these motherfuckers, you know, they're suffering themselves, and it boils down to a lack of education. And I think that's what education should be free. Call it a socialist, call it whatever you want. Make education free. More people are exposed to this education, and I think that is a step in the right direction, because typically when a group is being marginalized and they're uneducated, it creates a disaster.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and I think, you know, education is key, and I do agree education should be free. And you know what, it even comes down to an idea that I had, and I really want to work on this over the next few years, and that's bringing anthropology to an educational learning platform, to an education curriculum on an elementary level, because I think kids should learn anthropology at an elementary level, because it's really teaching kids about cultures, different cultures, not only teaching them about cultures, but understanding cultures to a point where when they do something, you understand why they're doing it, and you don't judge, and you don't have any kind of prejudice thinking that your culture is better than their culture. Just learning from an elementary level, I think, is just going to take this society to a whole nother level. Finishing off, and I think we'll just make some closing remarks here, is we jumped on this emergency broadcast because we just wanted to say and really expose all the kind of trickery going on out there, I think. And I think we can label it as trickery because it's protests that are being demonized by certain individuals that are causing havoc and wreaking havoc on the movement by breaking windows and vandalizing, when the majority of the movement is not for that, which just puts this nasty image out about this particular movement. And it's going to kill the movement, which is unfortunate, because who are we? Who are we if we can't peacefully protest? Who are we if we can't get together and express our amendments and our rights? When we label somebody and we demonize and we break down these movements, then we are not the United States of America. We want us to be able to protest and express our opinions without having interruptions and instigators to break up movements like this. So that's what we're trying to show you, that don't believe everything you hear on the mainstream media. Delve into the situation. Follow local activists who are on the floor so you can see footage of how this is really going down, because the way the mainstream media is portraying it is not the way it's going down.
Well, last night I got on, 2 a.m., looked at Sacramento news and was seeing a couple of little riots, but it all seemed very tame and kind of weak. And it was funny because I was like, Sacramento's not really into it. Let's check out Oakland. Oakland's going crazy. And then you tell me actually a lot happened last night, but the main Sacramento news wasn't showing it that way, because probably they want to de-escalate the situation and make sure people think it's not something crazy is going on. I don't know.
Well, yeah, maybe. And that's, unfortunately, I've been working, I think I worked 14 days straight, and it really took a toll on my body. And yesterday I slept for like 16 hours yesterday. And I was basically asleep all goddamn day. But when I woke up today, I woke up early and was ready to kind of get moving. I thought, I wonder what's going on in Sacramento. And I just looked up what's trending in Sacramento on Twitter and just realized so much went down last night here in Sacramento that it got crazy. Again, little 15-year-old kid, 13 or 15, something like that, got shot in the face with a rubber bullet. A lot of civil unrest here in Sacramento as well. And then I also seen today, there was a group of people that confronted the Mayor Steinberg, about where he sits on the spectrum, about what he needs to be doing to help the community. And basically they were in his face telling him, are you going to ride with this or are you not? Are you going to follow your constituents and get reelected when the time comes, or are you going to turn your back on your constituents and just run the other way? And it was interesting, man. They really confronted him and put him on the spot, and he didn't know what the hell to do. It's an interesting video. I'm sure it's out there. Check it out.
Yeah, and like we said, the streets of Visalia even, and people are scared on both ends of the spectrum. People are like, damn, I see a lot of people that are against this movement, and they're saying, the Second Amendment. I got, there's a lot of Second Amendment stuff going around, like, this is why the Second Amendment's there, so I can protect my own. I'm like, well, the Second Amendment's there for you to protect against the government.
Right.
And people are saying the government's not protecting them right now, and you're saying you're going to take guns upon them? It doesn't make any sense. So, I don't know, it's sad and crazy, but people are scared on both sides. If you're a white dude in Lindsay, you're probably a little nervous, maybe. I don't know. If you're a black dude in a white neighborhood, you might be a little nervous. It's this divide that's crazy. And I think the important thing is to stay calm, stay collective, and do this in the right way without pushing people away.
Keep going, Jay.
Yeah, Nick's messing with the YouTube. Keep going. But yeah, the United States is going crazy, Is there going to be a civil war? I don't know what's going on, but after reading Trump's tweet about, keep when looting starts, shooting starts, or something like that, holy crap, did that send shivers down my spine, because I was like, holy crap. Man, what does that say? A president put that? The president's supposed to de-escalate situations.
The president of the United States. And actually, I don't know the entire story of that, but it goes back to the 1950s and 60s movements. Someone said that, and then right after that, a lot of people died. And that really was the green light, which is interesting because ever since he said that, the police enforcements have been getting a little crazy. So that might have been the green light that these enforcement facilities needed to go out and just run over people, shoot people with rubber bullets and paintballs. And the New York Police Department video came out yesterday about 2 New York PD vehicles running over people. And it's hard to say that is 100% the worst thing that you can possibly do. It is terrible that happened. But at the same time, this police car was getting bricks and bottles and thrown at them, and people jumping on their car and doing this. And so what do you do as a police officer? I don't know. I couldn't tell you, but I don't think I would opt to run anybody over.
Yeah, but what if you're a normal citizen or a cop, but like surrounded by an angry mob, banging, bashing? You see the crack, glass cracking, we don't know what to do in that situation, because that's what second you got to make a decision: grab that gas and run over mofos, or be yanked out of that car, and who knows what could happen. An angry mob, man. I see the cops. Some cops are good cops, and they're going to get some shit for it.
Oh, absolutely. That's a given, and that's happening right now, unfortunately. And I think I will take it back to something you said a few podcasts ago, and that is Andrew Yang's take on every police officer should be trained in jiu-jitsu.
At least a purple belt in jiu-jitsu. And you see, George Floyd's a perfect example. Me and Gina, who's trained jiu-jitsu a lot, and man, you look at even the details of his toes on the road and his knee directed on the neck, and then up to his hip and to his head is where that weight is driving in. And you could see him lift his toes to put more weight on the neck as time goes on. And someone usually, me and Gina recognize that right away, like, damn, that guy's pinning his neck to the floor. And it's insane. There's been tons of lawsuits in different cities in the United States about even putting the knees on the back, which a lot of cops do, and how that when you're face down on the ground and you have knees on the back, that does disrupt your breathing patterns. And that's exactly how, it seems George died.
Yeah, and you know what, if you were trained, not only are you trained to physically move and your agility is physically maintained in a certain way, but when you train in jiu-jitsu or any kind of martial arts, I think you're training your mind also, right? And you're training your mind to de-escalate situations before they even get physical, right?
How to deal with fear and how not to be fearful of a physical contact.
Right.
We're not cops, by the way, and that's easy to say when someone reaches and shoots up a cop easily, which happened in Utah recently. It's crazy.
And things like that will happen, man. And unfortunately, god damn it, man, this is the saddest part of all this. And this is, me and you talking about it here with, maybe 5 or 6 people watching isn't going to create much of a change. But if we change ourselves and we're able to listen and really take in and be open about other people's opinions, we can make a change. And I think that's what we're here for. And obviously, Water Tower Podcast is aimed at creating some bigger movements, more than this podcast. This podcast was just a segue into what we really want to get going, and that's mini docs, and hopefully we can start getting out there, because I think that you and I, Jay, we do need to be out there and give our viewers something a little in depth.
Yeah, and talk to both sides. Talk to people in the gray area, right. And just get a point across. We especially want to do some stuff with Lindsay in Sacramento and Lindsay, California, Sacramento, California, but right now we're like, we got to do something. We don't got our camera gear ready to go out on the street, so let's do a live podcast by it. Which, sorry YouTube, we're gonna have to give up on you. It's not working, but man, it's insane, and I don't know where we go from here. Where do we go from here?
Well, that's the $1 million question, I think, Jay, and I don't think we have an answer for that, but all I can say is just keep an open mind, and when you see things on the news, don't automatically believe it. Do your own research. Follow the people on the ground. If you don't know who to follow on the ground, come visit our social media platform. Visit our Twitter page. See who we follow, because we're not following everyone that... We're not following everyone that we need to follow. But that's what we're kind of doing, right? Is trying to see where we're at and who we need to be following.
And look at the right news, look at the left news, and connect the dots.
Exactly.
And don't take it for don't take it as Jesus Christ is saying the words, or whoever you believe is saying the words. Take it with a grain of salt and try to piece it together. But if you go directly to some of those live videos, you'll see some stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And this is not fabricated.
Yeah.
These live videos are not fabricated. They're not edited. They're not in a studio with a bunch of
we hope not.
wealthy people talking about it. These are people on the ground of stuff that's actually happening.
And don't let a couple dickhead protesters that are just angry young testosterone-filled kids with no brains, no frontal cortex developed yet. Don't let these young kids push you away from the movement. Don't let a couple asshole cops make you hate cops. But there's a great, kind of saying that though, there is this great line going around, was it like 1,000 good cops and 10 bad cops? You have 110 bad cops.
Right.
If they allow it to continue.
Yeah, if you have 10 bad cops and 1,000 good cops, but the 1,000 good cops don't call out the 10 bad cops, then you have 1,010 bad cops.
Yeah, you want to keep your house clean, man.
You want to keep your house clean, right? And it just hasn't happened. And I think this is the biggest change that... I will say we, because I think we're part of this movement, and not that we're there on the ground, but I think we agree with this movement. That's what we want to see. I think that's the biggest thing that we want to see, is some kind of responsibility taken on the part of people who commit these crimes, whether they're wearing a suit and have a badge or not. We want to see criminalization. We want to see sentences. And hell, fucking string somebody up if you have to, man. We just want to see something happening to somebody that murders someone else.
Yeah. Well, string someone up, man. I don't know. That's, to me, it's, you know. It's...
Do it in Texas.
Wow. No, I'm not for that. Hey. But, you know, that comes into a whole other ballgame of death penalty and how you believe in that.
Of course.
But if I go out and do that, if you go out and do that, if a lot of you watching go out and commit this murder and without a badge, you're going to be tried for murder.
Oh, right.
You better believe it. Mm-hmm. And especially if you're a minority, more than likely, but no matter what, you probably will be, but minorities tend to get longer sentences. And then you're going to allow this cop, you know, not to you know, it shouldn't be a divided side.
No, it shouldn't be, but it is. And it's the blue code, and I understand it, I get it, you know, and I think that it's important to be on each other's team and to be willing to stand up for your brother, but there's a certain line that needs to be crossed, and that's exposing bad apples.
Yeah.
So with that, I mean, I think we said all that we need to say, and I think, you know, I want to thank all of you for following and kind of following the movement and following Water Tower Podcast, and you know, we will grow from here, and we're going to be putting out some good content. And
yeah, and if some issues arise, like our episodes sometimes are a couple of days delayed, so that's why we did this live podcast with such a serious issue going on. But, you know, this Friday, I see Juan's on. We're going to have Juan on from Venezuela. He's going to talk about martial arts, dedicate his life to martial arts, and train to some awesome trainers up in the Bay Area and in Venezuela and other places. But thank you guys, and please subscribe, and we appreciate you guys. And as we build this channel, we're going to hopefully give off like some shirts and stuff. A lot of stuff's down the road. We're sorry, we're taking it one step at a time. Only a little over 30 days in, so doing pretty good.
And we're doing pretty damn good. So again, we thank all of you for just tuning in, paying attention, and we just asked, keep an open mind.
Keep an open mind. It's not left, it's not right, it's the truth, and whether that truth is different from me and Nick, it is. It is what it is. We follow right and left people on social media, and
you have to.
And man, it's not. We're going to talk a lot about that, but it's not. That's not what it's about at the end of the day.
Nope. Humanity.
All right, please subscribe. Thank you all. Like, we really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. Let us know what we could do better. Let us know your opinions. You know, whether you disagree with us, disagree with us. We'll love it. You know, just whatever. Give us some comments. Any feedback is appreciated. And if you don't want to, you don't have to. But we're going to keep trucking.
Absolutely. Peace out, y'all.
All right, peace out.